The Hong Kong people love their local artists, and one of them in particular, Bruce Lee, managed to make it onto the world stage and change the world for the better, and his legacy still lives on inside our cinema and martial arts. But he managed to bridge the East and Western cultures together, and he'll always be remembered for his philosophy and obviously kicking ass. And usually for me, as a live streamer from Periscope, I would try to commemorate Bruce Lee by visiting his old apartment buildings and his schools. Sadly, those are disappearing. This year, it's a little bit different because I did a small collaboration with Jimmy Yuen, and together we talk about his efforts to commemorate Bruce Lee on his 80th, what would have been his 80th birthday. And what Jimmy did was redesign 3 of Hong Kong's trams, and we can see those every day at the moment running across Hong Kong Island. Now, something that didn't make it into the final edit, and this is the last thing I'll mention before we get into the video, is that the trams themselves are numbered, obviously bus numbers, tram numbers, but the numbers have significance, and it's 8, 80 and 160. And in Chinese culture, 8 is considered a very lucky number. So it's perfect in a sense that it's the 80th commemorative year of what would have been Bruce Lee's birthday, and then he gets these particular trams. Okay, but if you're really interested, I'll put a link in the show notes. Other than that, thank you for watching. Thank you for still being on the channel, and plenty more to come. Thank you for coming and sharing some time with us to talk about, I think, one of your favorite subjects.
Oh, yes.
So can you briefly explain how you began this idea with your painting career, and then what gave you the idea to want to collaborate with Hong Kong trams?
First of all, in fact, my career is a landscape architect, but drawing is my number one hobby. The idea of drawing trams or drawing Bruce Lee on a tram is started about 5 years ago, but only eventually last year, 80th anniversary of Bruce Lee. So in August last year, I began to start drawing Bruce Lee. I started with 2 different portraits of Bruce Lee. One in Enter the Dragon, which is one of my favorite Bruce Lee movies. And then the other one is The Game of Death because of the yellow dragon. It's very significant and very dominant. The one in Enter the Dragon with the iconic Bruce Lee kick style. And then the other one is the yellow dragon. When I was still studying in high school, and then I think it's the summertime when I watched the TV, they got one of Bruce Lee's movies, and then when I see his style, and even before I watched his movie, I already heard a lot of things from my parents already. They describe how powerful Bruce, but only until I really saw the movie. When I was very young, when I was a kid, because my father is an artist, he did a lot of he designed a lot of posters for the movie in Hong Kong, including some of the overseas versions of the Bruce Lee movies. The Bruce Lee movies, they have 2 different versions. One for the local version, and then the other one for selling to the overseas market. I got the idea of drawing trams 5 years ago, and particularly I would like to put some iconic figures on the trams as well. And Bruce Lee is no doubt an iconic figure in Hong Kong as well as in the martial arts of the world. I started with doing 2 different portraits of Bruce Lee. As I said before, I have chosen 2 of his poses from 2 different movies. One is The Game of Death, and then the other one is Enter the Dragon. I also have an idea beyond celebrating Bruce Lee's 80th anniversary. It's try to use Bruce Lee and Hong Kong trams together to promote the tourism of Hong Kong. Okay. So that's why you see behind in the tram drawing behind Bruce Lee, there are the skyline of Hong Kong Victoria Harbour with the iconic building behind Bruce Lee. This idea 5 years ago, but just only started the start to develop the Bruce Lee tram last year. It's not so easy to get the work on the tram. Although I got an experience of doing the artwork on bus bodies. Putting artwork on the tram bodies are more complicated because all the windows and the doors or entrance, you can't put any artwork on it. So it actually confines where you put the main figure of Bruce Lee on the tram body. Of course, you know, if I draw the figure much bigger, it will be more eye-catching and more iconic. But I don't want to cut too much of Bruce Lee head, and don't want to cut off too much of arms or legs. So I have to adjust the figure very carefully. I did not work on one-to-one scale. I worked with a smaller drawing, and then I gave it to the production company, and they have to enlarge my drawing. As long as I got enough details in my drawing, I don't have much worry that when my drawing grow up and then it will becomes too loose. yeah. Although the three trams, they have the same exterior because they run at they have different routings every day. One of the tram runs between Happy Valley and Kennedy Town. For the next day, it may change its routing from South Yuen to Western Market, and also the different weather. And also a different time of day, say morning, noon time, and afternoon, the results will be different. Sometimes when I took a picture, there may be some other obstacles. That's why if the weather is not getting too cold and I wake up very early in the morning, then I will try to trace my tram before going to work. One of the reasons putting the photos in the social media like Facebook or Instagram is to share the pictures not only to my friends, but also to the followers or some of the Bruce Lee friends or tram friends. They are not living in Hong Kong, you know, because of COVID-19. Because many many overseas tourists. They would like to come to Hong Kong, but they can't come. So what I can compensate to them is just keep uploading pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, because before this project, I also do the artwork on buses for an iconic singer of Hong Kong, Leslie Cheung. And Leslie has a lot of friends in Japan and Korea. They want to trace the Leslie Cheung buses. They want to trace my artwork, but they can't because of COVID-19. Enter the Dragon is my #1 favorite Bruce Lee movie. What's special about that movie? If you can recall the last fight in the movie with Mr. Sad in the mirror room. That is very iconic and very amazing. Before I did the Bruce Lee tram, in fact, 11 years ago, there was a BruceLee residence ideas competition for converting the Kowloon Town residence into a museum. And at that time, I entered the competition and I also won the first prize. And in my design entry, I introduced the mirror room of the Enter the Dragon into part of the renovation of the Bruce Lee residence. At that time, in the competition brief, the organization is looking for entries that will convert the existing residence into a Bruce Lee museum to attract international tourists. So I thought, can I bring some kind of iconic elements from his movies into the museum as well. And I found that the mirror room, because with architectural background, when I look at that movie, I always think about what will be the arrangement of that mirror won't look like. For that reason, because I have to draw on paper, I have to revisit the movie for that part about 20 times in order to figure the layout of the mirror room. And to my surprise, in fact, the layout is much simpler than I thought. It's just basically a square and then with a big column in the middle, and then they got some folding mirrors. I always have this thinking in my mind, and that is one of the very key reasons why I have to initiate the Bruce Lee Tram project. I recall when I went to Eastern Europe some years ago. At that time, I visited Romania. They have a tourist guide. After tour, they asked me, will you guys come back to Romania to visit me? And then none of us gave the work to him. And then he broke the silence. He said, if you guys don't come back, okay, I will come to Hong Kong to visit you because I love Bruce Lee. I'm a die-hard fan of Bruce Lee. So you will see actually Bruce Lee has dominance or importance in some of the countries that most Hong Kong people may not be familiar with. If they come to Hong Kong, they will find, as you said, there's no significant landmark.
Do you think that's a little bit unfair to Bruce Lee's legacy, to what he's done for Hong Kong in terms of Hong Kong cinema and raising the awareness of Asian culture?
Personally, think so, but maybe that's the difference between how Hong Kong people or how the other people from other countries look at things regarding the iconic figures of their own place. I also like to draw some iconic landmarks of Hong Kong. As you can see in Hong Kong, in the background of the Bruce Lee Tram, it contains the skyline of Hong Kong with the iconic landmark of Hong Kong. And after doing the Bruce Lee Tram, I tried to count how many iconic landmarks or buildings I have drawn. In September this year will be Leslie Cheung's 60th anniversary. I got a good response doing the Leslie Cheung portrait on the buses, and it caused a lot of attention of Leslie Cheung. And the Leslie Cheung buses were also selected as one of the most important during the year 2020.
Jimmy, thank you for your time. Thank you, Raya, for shooting the video. And I hope you get the rest that you deserve.
Yeah.
And we'll see your work either in a museum arts exhibition or on other Hong Kong trams.
Okay.